Hey guys, how's it going? Codeberry's here today, so hope you're all doing well. We did have a bit of a crash last week, so Bitcoin came down to about 30K. So you can see that red candle there, pretty sharp red candle. Down from the high, so the high was 64,895, I think. That was an all-time high. So from those highs, we've come down almost to a 50% retracement on the monthly to about 25K. Again, we said that support was down here at 13K. So so the wick here at the top, it's at like 19. So between 19 and 13, that's where the main support is. And again, I think that's gonna break. We'll just talk about the crash. So we did have a crash sometime last week. I was gonna do a video the day of, but I got caught doing some coding stuff, so I didn't have a chance, unfortunately. So I apologize for that. So this was on the 19th of May at 6 a.m. Right, that happened exactly at 6 a.m. So sorry, 6 a.m. my time, so it would have been New York time 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So it happened right at the open, or it started right before the open, I guess, right when Forex opened up, I guess. So that's when so around 4 or 5 my time, that's when Forex starts to get pretty volatile, like foreign exchange pairs. The US dollar probably was getting volatile at that time. So we did have it tried to break to the upside here. We had a rejection right at the 50% retracement. It came down, basically the average price. It's not the VWAP though. I just think of it as an average. Usually is pretty close. I can't add a VWAP to this, but if you did put it on top of this layout, it would be pretty close to that yellow line. So anyways, we had a pretty quick flash crash here, so you can see it came down quite high. We dropped down like 10K in like 15 minutes. So that's pretty much a flash crash if it isn't already. It's almost a flash crash. It's a quick sell-off to lose about 10K, and what is that? So it came down 40 to 30. So it lost 25% of its total market cap in 15 minutes. Like that's pretty big, right? That's huge. That's, if not one of the biggest crashes that it's had so far. I've seen it go from about 13K to about 9K. So this might have topped that. But that was a huge sell-off, so we'll just put our latest low here. So at 30K exactly, so 30K came down to 30,066 exactly. So again, it was expected. So we'll just go over the monthly quickly. So we did, So we did have that candle sharply to the downside. Move sharply to the downside. We do have the shorter period MACD crossing over. Hasn't crossed over yet. There's still a line to that zero line. We've had a negative inflection to negative infinity. We have the slope, the sharp slope. We haven't made it down here to the 50% retracement line. I mean, sorry, not the zero line. So that's where the zero line. So when it inflects zero and it goes from negative infinity to positive infinity, and positive infinity to negative infinity, it crosses over that zero line. So that's that orange line. So we've had, as you can see, this peak to this peak. There's a little bit of a gap here, but this peak to this peak is a huge gap, right? So the default MACD, same idea. We do have an inflection here. There's a lot of room to that zero line, so there's a lot of room for this to still come down. If it was to just bounce off, but I don't think it's going to bounce off. We do have the negative inflection on the histogram. There's, you know, this could see 1, 2, 3, 4 months before it even crosses down, right? 3-4 months or more if they're smaller. It could be, you know, like almost 10 months. So this could be going for a while. As I said, it could be a bearish cycle for a long time. So anyone holding at the 60 area, 60k area, 63, 65, they could be getting caught there for a long time, right? So again, we did have the break of the from overbought to heading into neutral. That's a strong signal. We did have all three lines cross over, the red one being the fastest, so the fastest settings. And we do have now this break here this week. I'm sure at some point it was closer down here, like when it was at 30k, maybe around there. But we could see continue here, or because there's a new month coming up, right? So there's going to be a month coming up in a few days. So what I'm thinking is it actually might just continue down. The reason why is, so we'll go to the weekly. We do have some reversion happening here. So we might see this, let me remove all these lines. We might see this shorter period indicators come back maybe up here just to do a little test, right? Test support, test resistance. Where's resistance at this point? I guess this would be it right here. So we've broken through this one. So we came down. So I'm looking at these candles here. So we came down at this point, right? We're at this level here. So where did we initially say was the support? Remember what we said with that, where the main support was? It was at 38,000. And it came down quickly. I didn't think it was going to come down that quickly, to be honest, but it just came down really, really quickly. So that's where the support area was. That's what we talked about in the previous videos. So that's where the main support is, or sorry, was. So we've broken through that. So we've broken that support. So where's the next support now? The next weekly support. Yeah, that's all-time highs. So is that a red down there? Can't even see. Yeah, that is a red down there. Yeah, so the next group of red candles are down here. So we're looking at the 20k area. So we're coming off here now. Basically, that's where the monthly support is starting. These are that wicks, the top of that wick on the monthly candle. That's what it is here. So it's like that area right there. That's the next one now. And before we get there, before it wants to come down really, really quick, where's that 50% retracement? It's here now. So we've come below that 50% retracement. As I said, we might see some reversion. You can see a little bit of bullish momentum trying to come through. So what's going to happen is you might see some other shorter period time frames resetting, perhaps the 4-hour, which it already is. There's a excuse me. There's a divergence right there. So where is it? So it's this peak of the price to that point, and then RSI slowly moved up. Nothing on the MACDs. Perhaps on the shorter period, you got a little bit of two peaks right there, but nothing. Is there a little bit on there? I guess there is a little bit on there, but it did end up probably see some histogram stuff too if we really go into detail. We still have to talk about Dogecoin and ETH, and there was an altcoin I wanted to talk about as well, and then mention Eden. So Eden cannabis. There is some histogram. Is there histogram diver? So actually, technically, this is actually bullish convergence because the lines are converging together. So there is some more here. It continues. And then we have the drop in price and the upwards momentum on the indicators, right? So actually, yeah, I think that was it there. There it is. There's the bullish convergence, and then right there. It's weird because now I'm looking at I was looking at bearish divergence for so long, trying to spot out the histogram divergence. So we would have seen it move higher. Yeah, so here we go. So price would have closed lower as the histogram moves up. Yeah, so you can find them. So there's like some here. So at that point to that point, the histogram closed higher. See how it closed higher overall? See that histogram there to that histogram there, that point, that low to that high. And you can see as that happened, the price came down. So then we had a chance to catch it in one of these areas, right? So as the histogram goes up and the price comes down, you want to look for perhaps a sell-off. Strong volatility would be denoted by crossing over those outer bands, the RSI getting oversold, crossing deep below those moving averages. We have the 2 and the 9, EMA 2 and EMA 9. So kind of drifting far away. I want to see it drift far away from that 50% average price line, the yellow line. And then on the shorter time frame, you would have wanted to look for a position if you're trying to scalp it. But it's a little bit trickier when you're looking for histogram stuff on the shorter time frames. So we might have been able to see it on the daily. I'll just remove those lines. So yeah, so we came a little bit low, and again we've had a retracement to the EMA 9. So have a look at that, right? We've came low, and we've had a clear retracement to that EMA 9. Might see a little bit more because it was a little bit of obviously a strong sell-off. When's the last time the daily actually? When's the last time we had such a sharp sell-off? So when's the last time I touched that pink band or purple, whatever, pink? Long time. We haven't had a drop that deep in a long time. But what have we had? We've had strong momentums to the upside. We've been shorting for so long. I'm getting used to the shorting entries. So again, here's the momentum to the upside, right? So strong momentum to the upside, and then a retracement back to the EMA 9 and that 50%, the average price yellow line. And then same thing, momentum started to fade out. Whoops. Momentum started to fade out here at that point. We continued lower because that was a little bit strong. We had a break. We had that break to 57. Same thing. It didn't come as high. As you can see, that was the last time it came that high on the daily. And then we just had some momentum to the downside. Same thing. As you can see, it starts to have trouble as it comes up that high. It starts to have trouble coming up that high again because the momentum starts to lose. The trend starts to lose momentum. You can see every time it starts drifting far away from those blue bands. Eventually, it's like, yeah, I want to test it again. Fails, and then just inflects. So it's the same thing here. We've came low. Now we've had a retracement. Could we see up there? It's possible. Would I be going long at this point? No, I would not, because overall the trend wants to come down. But if you were scalping a position at 30, that would have been alright. You would have made 25%, right? But again, there's that since it was so sharp to the bottom, to the downside, we might see a little bit more momentum at least to there. Is there any more signals? So we haven't had the default crossover. It's probably there's a good chance that it will, because we haven't come that low in so long. So the probability of this crossing over again at this point is high, because it hasn't come that low in so long, and we've had crosses here without any high volatility. So this crossing over, it's highly probable. It's not for sure, but it's highly probable. At this point, it's starting to want to connect with neutral. The RSI wants to reset, wants to come back up here, just algorithmically. Like if this algorithm is coded and someone's running an auto system, like if the banks have an auto system in the bank where they make orders that are coded in, so it's like it's a bot, right? It's a robot. So if someone's coded that in and we've come so low, then algorithms might want to bring this back up before it wants to reset again, right? And then once it maybe not that high, maybe like here, also it's possible, or at least 50%, right? At least back to neutral could be possible. So 50, and look for a break of 50. If we break 50 to the upside, then we could be going a little bit higher. This is the shorter period. In the shorter time frames, this could come a little bit higher. But then overall, we still continue down. That's what I think from the monthly. We could see that blue indicator there come up, and the yellow perhaps come up a little bit higher. Other than that, there's nothing to see here on the weekly. Might see a little bit of couple blue bars here, bit of bullish momentum, maybe back up to the 50 and just a drop, or maybe back up here and then just a drop, maybe even just to the EMA 9, about 45. But I'm thinking maybe just about, because once the next week starts, that's going to continue lower since the price is low, and same thing with the monthly. So we could see, you know, maybe come back just above 40 before it wants to come down, maybe a little bit below mid 40 before it wants to continue to come down. But have a look at the yellow RSI. We had it cross down. Whoops, not here. We had a cross down of the neutral zone to the downside. So that's a strong signal. This will want to continue heading back down here. When's the last time we crossed up from neutral? Well, that was last April, right? Have a look. So we had a little bit of fake out. So you kind of have to look from the top. So we crossed down, came down, came quite close to that oversold area. Then after, we wanted to cross back up. So after it crossed 50, it had that run. So now what's happening? Whoops. We have the same idea, but just to the downside. This is algorithmic, right? So this wants to cross back down 50. So there's 50 and come back down here. Maybe not down there, but at least around there. And since the monthlies could be turning, it could be going deeper, like where these red lines are already down here. It could be going down there, depends. When's the last time we were down there? It's been a while since we're down there, but at least, you know, there. And again, as we said, that's another 50%. So if Bitcoin was at 60 and it lost 30, so we could be losing another 30. That's what I've been saying. So it's a little bit less than that because it went down to about 43. So take a little bit off that. You know what I mean? So around, you know, 2 to 6K could be possible. But that's all. It's all pretty much the whole story for Bitcoin. Again, I said shorter time periods would be resetting. We have the bullish convergence right there. It's all clear. Price moves lower from the wick, at least the base of the wick, not the death wicks. But this point to that point, it moved lower. So yeah, see, from this point to this point, we move lower, the price, from that, at least to that bottom of that death wick to that bottom of that death wick. We have the upwards momentum in the RSI, so it's clear here, and the MACD, at least the histogram too. So otherwise we'll just talk about Ethereum. So Ethereum also had a crash, so it came down to like 1800, I think. It was all on the same day at the same time. So that would mean that the overall greater like cryptocurrency markets, like the big ones, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge. Well, I guess Dogecoin's not the biggest, but it's starting to get popular in the media and stuff. So it also crashed, but it did come down to the 1800 level. Sorry, so we came. Oh, did we come down lower than that? I did not know we came down lower than that. That was yesterday. That's interesting, actually. So I thought the low was here. I didn't know it came down. Was it on the weekend? 2 days ago. I didn't know that. I had no idea. So we initially had the crash. This was at the same time, I think, as Bitcoin, or just before even. So we came down to 1850, I guess. Oh wait, is this the Kraken data? Because it might actually not show us the real story. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, see, this point was actually lower by a little bit. If you notice that. See the low at this point here? On the top? It's actually lower on the Kraken data. So we ended up coming down to 1840 according to this chart. And then on this one we came down to 1730. That's really interesting. Which is interesting also because we came down so volatile to the downside that this peak came down even lower, but it wasn't as volatile. So it's kind of interesting. It's the same idea here. We have the bullish convergence. Price moves lower. Indicators move up generally. So the histogram closed higher as well. If you're saying like, yeah, that's the low of the histogram, and that's the low of the histogram as price moved down, then overall, overall the histogram closed higher. See, there's the low of the histogram, or there it is. There's the high, well, there's the high point up here, but here's the first high point. But overall, if you average all these bars out, there's overall it moves up. Basically, overall, the histogram moves up as the price moved down. And the other indicators also moved up. So the RSI moved up in the yellow line. And then the default also moved up. So there's 4-hour divergence. Bullish convergence. Or some people might know it as bullish divergence. But from the monthly perspective, that's a huge death wick. It's once a closed doji, you can see that. So it was up here, came all the way down here, which is pretty crazy. So Ethereum lost in this month. High was 4,380. It lost more than 50%. I think it's more than Bitcoin. I think it's a bit more than Bitcoin, so maybe even 60% or something like that or more. But as you look where that wick came down to. Came right down to that point right there. Almost exactly. So it saw like, yeah, I got some support down there, so it just kind of wasn't enough volatility to break it. Wasn't enough volume to break it at this point. So now it came back up, and this monthly candle here wants to close as a doji. So when a candle closes as a doji, that means the greens want to start turning into a red. It's not for sure. It's just a theory, just like an idea. It's kind of like a pattern. I don't trade patterns, but it just kind of, maybe some people know what it is. Anyways, we did have strong momentum for the upside. Again, we came down to the 50% retracement area. So now, same thing, we might see a little bit of mean reversion. Perhaps the shorter period indicators want to come back up to overbought before continuing down. Excuse me. So there's a bit of bullish momentum. You can see that blue bar inflecting to positive infinity. This still hasn't crossed down again. So there's whoops, not this one. So this one hasn't crossed down yet. So when it does cross down, it's going to trigger a lot of algorithmic sells. Yeah, so other than that, there's nothing really here. Monthly, this hasn't crossed down, so it's just inflecting now. There's tons of room here to the zero line. The blue line hasn't even inflected yet to negative infinity. You can see that hasn't even inflected to negative infinity. This line hasn't even inflected at all. So as you can see, there's tons of room for this to come down. That's why I'm saying Ethereum again could be like $80 at its lows. It can go back to $80 before people want to buy it again, so they can actually make money, like a lot of money, right? Big institutions, banks, hedge funds, exchanges even, they'll probably buy it when it's really, really low. And at this point they're going to sell because it's all wants to go to a bearish cycle. So again, we have the monthly support down here at 1100, and then we have the top of that wick here at where it bounced off almost. It's at like 15 something, 1577 or something. So there's a lot of room to the downside for that 50% retracement. 600 is about so that light blue line, it'll move down a little bit as the months close lower. The average price is gonna move down. So that's what I'm saying. The support down here is at 70, 80 bucks, even lower, 50 bucks. I guess, yeah, 70. Somewhere around there, right? And that's low. Imagine how high it's going and going all the way back down to 50 bucks. Like, that's crazy, right? That's how cryptocurrency works, so it's just a speculation. So you make money on the upside and you can short it on the downside and make money again when it goes back up. So these periods take a long time. That was about a year before it wanted to go back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One whole year before it wanted to have another bullish run. And again, it basically traded sideways for another year. And then another year after, almost 9 months, then it took off. So it could be a long cycle, and it kind of makes sense because look, these lines haven't even inflected, nor has it even crossed. And after it crosses, look how long it wants to run before it crosses back up. So it all makes sense here. We'll just talk about Dogecoin quickly. So same idea, wants to have a doji. Everything's almost the same. Hasn't crossed over. Hasn't even inflected. No negative infinity. Divergence. No bearish divergence. Nothing to the downside at all. Tons of room to the zero line here. I think this is the biggest zero line gap that's between all three: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. So look how big the gap is. That's huge. That's a huge gap. That's almost as big as this histogram bar. That's crazy. Same thing here, but the gap, I don't think the gap is as big, but it is still pretty big. This one hasn't even crossed at all. Even the faster one hasn't even crossed, right? So the low of this candle was 21 cents area, 21.5. So just have a look at the RSI though before we moved over. 100 on the dot, and it's so low. I think the yellow RSI was closer to 100 at one point. Super high, right? Look, we haven't even crossed here yet. Haven't crossed out of overbought to neutral. Haven't come back to neutral in a long time. But we haven't even crossed down below, so look how high we are at this point. 50% retracements down at about 7 cents. And our first monthly support is, we can't even see it. I think that might be it there, less than a cent. So 0.008 area. Top of the candle is at 1 cent. So if we break that, we could be coming back down. Yeah, that's where the support is. That's where monthly support is exactly, I think. So it's right here at 0.08 and between there. So that tip can break and it'll come down. If it wants to bounce off here, it might. If not, it'll come back into this. I think it'll come back into this heavy supported area. Like watch the mouse, like all in there. That's what I'm thinking. Because there's a lot of support in there for it to get bought up for another run. It's so high, we can't even see where support is. This doesn't really want to have too much reversion. It might. Shorter period indicators might want to come up a little bit before it comes back down. This crossed over one inflection here, bearish inflection. Starting red bar. This hasn't even crossed. These are weekly candles, by the way. This hasn't even crossed at all. Kind of big gap here. Lots of room to the zero line. Yeah, so I think it's all going to be following Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's a little bit of room for it to make a little bit of retracement, as we said. Maybe, maybe not, because it's pretty close to that average price area already. So yeah, so I'll just we'll just talk about one more thing. So for altcoins, check out PIG token. I wouldn't go too heavy in there because it's kind of risky, because it's like an altcoin. It's like a new altcoin, so it doesn't even have data on the monthly or weekly, just like a couple weeks of data. It might be 100x coin, more, even 1000x perhaps, if it runs for a long time. None of that data is on here on TradingView, so you're gonna have to go to poocoin.app. So instead of .com, so it's POOCOIN. Yeah, the name's kind of silly, but then the data is pretty good. I actually talked to the developers, so I got in contact with the developers, and I actually told them, like, yeah, like there's only daily charts on that website. So I was like, can we please have some weekly and monthly charts? And then after like a week, they added a weekly, so now we have weekly data on there, and that was all because of me, because I asked them. So I actually like made a Telegram and like went on there and bugged them and asked them if they could create it, and they ended up doing it. There's like one guy on there, FOMO. He's like one of the mods. He's the developer, so they only have one developer on their website, but those are all, they have a bunch of data for Binance Smart Chain coins. So I kind of just got into looking at those. So you can get all those on Pancake Swap. You're going to need a Trust wallet for that. So you just go to the App Store. It's only available on phone. So it's not available on the computer yet. So you just go to the App Store, type in Trust Wallet, download that, and then you can connect it to Binance if you can. And then you can like buy Binance BNB, Binance coin or whatever. You can send it to your Trust Wallet, then convert that to Smart Chain. Then you can go into Pancake within that Trust Wallet, and then you can buy Pig, so PIG. We might get, I think we might get like a 20x by the summer, like before the summer even starts maybe. But I think within June or July we could see a 20x. And then also, so check that out. I'll try to put a link in the description. Other than that, so I was watching the chart a little bit. The data is a little bit different. It's not the same as this. It's kind of doesn't move as normally. It must be coming from like some kind of ghetto exchange. So it's like sometimes it has like spikes and you can't even see them. You can see them on the shorter period time frame. So if, like, we're on the daily and this spikes, well, I kind of talked to the developer to kind of fix it. I've kind of been working with him, like not fixing it, but I've been telling him what's happening with it, like why it's causing errors. So basically it's like spiking, and before on the daily you couldn't see the spike. So if it spiked up here to that blue band or higher, up here, you wouldn't see it. But if you went to like the 15-minute, you'd see like a huge wick going up, like crazy wick, like one of these, like way higher than that. And you wouldn't be able to see it on the daily, so I took screenshots of those and I like sent it to them and I explained what was happening, and I think that they fixed it a little bit since then. So I'm kind of contributing to those charts becoming better, kind of working with the developer and whatever. So yeah, so it's better now. It's a lot better. When I first went on there, I was kind of upset because the charts were so bad because I'm used to using these. So I've been kind of working with them. I'll probably bug them for the monthly charts pretty soon, within like the next few weeks. But other than that, they've kind of fixed it. There's a little bit of a gap, maybe a few hundred points, sometimes 500, but it's not like before where it was like 10k gap or something. You couldn't even see it. So it's PooCoin, POOCOIN.app. Check it out. You can get any Binance or most Binance Smart Chain coins on there. Search PIG. It's like trading at, I think, 6 zeros and then 3 something. So we had a high of like 4,500 in the decimals. We could see a spike past 50,000 to double that, because every time it kind of doubles. So we could see that. We could see a 20x, and then so after all that, check out Eden Empire. So it's a stock. So Eden Empire Incorporated, Eden Empire INC. The ticker symbol is EDEN.CN. You can't see it here, but with your broker or bank, it's probably going to be EDEN.CN. It trades on the Canadian Stock Exchange. It's a new stock. It's a new cannabis stock, so they have retail sales. See the previous videos. But they have retail sales, like dispensaries across Canada and the US, and they're opening more. They're one of the oldest dispensaries in British Columbia, and they've expanded now. They're like all over Canada now, and they're in the US now, so they've actually moved into the US, and they're moving into all kinds of states like Washington, Oregon. They're already there. Michigan, they're already there. They're moving into Florida, Arkansas, some other states too. Michigan, I think I said that. Maybe Arizona soon. Stuff like that. So as more states get legalized, they're really keen on getting into new states. They also have growing operations in the states, I think. Yeah, they have growing operations in the states, for sure. But I mean, not. I don't know if they're in Canada, because they're only allowed to have growing operations in one country, either Canada or the U.S. if they want to be like listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. But they do have dispensaries in both countries. So I'm assuming that the grow up is in Washington and somewhere on the East Coast, and maybe I guess they're gonna have one in every state now. So it's going big. This could be seeing $1. So we are testing support down here. It's kind of bouncing off the support line. It wants to move up to the upside. We had one green month close, its first green month close. Now we're having its second green month close. So we could have a spike pretty soon. We could see this going really high, up to $1 and past. So check it out, get in. Yeah, so I'll see you guys next time. Take care.